The Age of Enlightenment came to a close in 1990, 2 more years after Ultima 5. Ultima 6, the False Prophet, was built to subvert expectations back in a time where subverting expectations wasn't really a thing that people did in games. There weren't that many expectations yet. Well, they were if you count the Atari games, which are horrible, but expectations were subverted by every game that wasn't horrible at the time. Like all the Ultima games that came before it in this age, Ultima 6 posed a question. Though actually every game had the same question as Ultima 4. If you did not import the save game, you had to go through the character creation process again, with more or less the same questions defining your core attributes, your core beliefs, it defined you as you were, though you did skip over the part of becoming the avatar again in the later 2 games. You were the avatar. You were again in Britannia, and again Britannia needed your help. Because creatures of darkness, these demon-like entities, were roaming all over the place, killing people, capturing shrines, and pouring out of the depths. And this cover just said it all. A glorious avatar, victorious upon the still wriggling corpse, from what it seems, of a gargoyle, of an evil demon-like creation of pure evil. And the game asked the question, what if everything you believe, what if everything that you based your belief on is actually wrong? Think about it. How many games, or how many things in general, actually make you ask that question? Not a lot, I can tell you this for certain. Not even in most educational systems. You're usually given the current vision of the world, and for the most part you're made to memorize it and not even understand it for the most part. That sort of makes it a very bad educational system, but hey, it's all we have. Critical thinking isn't really the strong suit of modern education, though it should be. And do you know how to best get people to consider critical thinking, analyzing, discerning reality from fiction, getting to the core truth of the matter? You show them something they've been used to for a long time. You show them something they've known, something they hold to be a truth, something that to them is reality, and you prove it to not be true. This image of the avatar standing victorious over that gargoyle, over that demon, in any other game, in absolutely every other game ever made, that would have been it. That would have been the plot of the game. You, a victorious hero, defeat the evil incarnations of darkness that spew forth from the belly of the world and threaten the lives of all the innocent people that dwell on the surface. Light versus darkness, good versus evil, purity versus corruption. But this was Ultima, and even in the year 1990, Ultima was different from most games. It's probably not a spoiler, it'll be kinda hard for it to be a spoiler for a game series that's so goddamn old. But the subtitle, The False Prophet, should have been a clue. The subtitles of the 3 games in this Age of Enlightenment always refer to either the player or the player characters, or the party characters. I mean, Warriors of Destiny was you, Dupre, Iolo, Shamino, the rest of them, I always forget them, and Ultima 6 is no different. The False Prophet is you, because that belief you built, that code of honor, that religion is based on a lie. And not just a lie, it's based almost on genocide. It is based on the destruction of an entire world of innocent beings. For you see, when you went into the depths to look at the Codex, you sort of invaded their world. You gazed upon their most holy of relics without their permission. Oh yeah, and in Ultima 5, Lord British and you take the Codex from the underground and collapse it. The sky fell upon them and they died. An innocent, peaceful civilization brought to ruin because You believe this codex to be yours because you believe that this book was meant for you, but it wasn't. It was meant for everyone. So now they want it back. Well, truthfully, they want to live. The Gargoyles want to live. And they only see two ways of being able to do that. They need a new home. Theirs is falling apart. Theirs is being destroyed with every passing moment. It's falling apart. It's dying. It's dead. But yours, oh, yours is a-okay. Why wouldn't it be? You have the Codex, and you have the false prophet that killed a bunch of us and stole it. And Lord British. Well, let's face it, Lord British in a lot of these games is kind of evil. Yeah, he has good intentions, but he is a bit evil. He's a bit like Blackthorn. He had good intentions too. He wanted the virtues to be respected. He wanted a perfect society and imposed great punishments on those who, even in the slightest, would deviate from his vision, which was kind of your vision taken to the extreme. Lord British, even if it was unintentionally, doomed the species to destruction. He also did some other nasty things about which you learn in Ultima 7, but I'll not get into those yet. But he did cause the events that led up to here, that led up to you, the Avatar, the champion of all that's good and right, the champion of love, of truth and compassion, committing genocide. Up until you learn that the creatures you're killing, the ones that you're actively trying to wipe out from the world, they're not evil, they're desperate, they're running, they just want to live. And that gets you thinking, these creatures that look like demons, they're not. Yeah, they did try to kill you in a ritual sacrifice, but to be fair, they were trying to stop you, to stop what's being done in your name. Again, desperate. If you want to, you could make a parallel between these gargoyles and the current situation with the refugees, which is kinda spooky when you think about it because this is a game from 1990. It dealt with the philosophical idea of this, of everything that you hold to be true and good in the world being based on something that is wrong, fundamentally wrong, namely the destruction of someone else. What do you do then? How do you fix it? How do you ensure that these two people that now have very good reasons to not like each other, namely constant murder, how do you get these two people to share the same world in peace? And the Avatar found a way. Well, you find a way in the game. You take the one thing, the only thing that both sides consider to be holy, consider to be the one thing that is above all else, and you make it inaccessible to any of them, but only to all of them. Alone, they cannot get to it. Together, they can. You force them to accept peace that way. You don't actually teach them. You don't fundamentally get them to understand each other. You force them to do it. You sort of become a big blackthorn in this aspect. You force their hand. Now, thankfully, you don't have to actually threaten to kill them unless they see peace. The Codex does that for you. The thing about the Codex of Ultimate Wisdom is, unlike the stuff we have in reality, that thing is actually a magical embodiment of wisdom. It beams it into their minds and makes them see reason. We really could use one of those in reality. Having that in mind, you could argue that Ultima 6 is a bit of a cop-out at the end, because the Codex fixes things for you, but the core of the idea is still there, that the majority of what you've done was wrong, and that you do bear responsibility for it. Mind you, you also bear responsibility for the act of actually killing all those gargoyles who are just hoping to stop you from ending their species. On the surface, maybe it doesn't seem like Ultima 6 has as deep an impact as the other ones do in terms of what exactly it's trying to talk about, but it does have a very emotional impact. The technology allowed this game to have better, or at least more fleshed out storytelling than the previous ones, and when you actually realize that you were the villain, that gave it a sense of weight that the previous games didn't quite have. In those games you were striving to be the best you can, to be the shining example of the world, to be a beacon of hope, even bringing those misguided few back onto the path and restoring order and freedom for all. But here in Ultima 6, you find out that although you do fight for right and justice and truth and compassion and everything that's good, that's only what you believe you're doing. What you're actually doing is committing genocide. And you do it out of ignorance. And in the end, that is the final boss of the Age of Enlightenment. Ignorance. The ignorance that bred a war between humans and gargoyles. And when that ignorance is vanquished, the fear subsides, the hatred wanes, and finally, this world can rebuild itself. It can rebuild itself for everyone. The Ultima games would continue to pose deep questions. I don't see myself making another series about it, maybe just one video sometime in the future. But I would like to gloss over what those questions were briefly. Ultima 7 showed you what the world would be without you. It asked you, were you even necessary? Look at this world. Look at this world that forgot even who you were. Forgot even what your teachings were. Look how peaceful it is. Look how good it is. Were you even needed? Granted, you kind of were, but still, it's a good question to have. Ultima 8 was sort of a return to form for the ancient Ultima games. The ones where you stole, you cheated, you did everything in order to get power and win. Only this time you did it because, like the Gargoyles, you were desperate. How far would you go? How far would you go to save your world, to save your friends? Would you doom another species, another civilization to ruin? Yeah. And then Ultima 9 asked, what's a paladin or something? Ultima 9 was supposed to be about sacrifice, about the final sacrifice. It was supposed to be about what could you do when you lost? What could you do when there are no more easy solutions, easy answers? When you are asked to complete your quest, to take it to its final conclusion, to die, to save everyone. Could you do it? Could you take this character that you've known for 20 years and do that to him or her? Well, no, it was a him because Ultima 9, well, Ultima 8 as well fudged things up a bit. A lot. Quite a lot. Ultima 9 especially. People will say Ultima 9 is part of a great series, but in itself it is a very flawed game with lots of problems that undermine most of Ultima. Blame it on rewrites, constant rewrites. Blame it on EA, blame it on Garriott, blame it on anything you want, but the game had issues. You could say that all the Ultima games had issues, but not like 9. Not even 8 had issues like 9, and I played it before it had the patch that made all the stones stand goddamn still when you jump. But regardless of that, regardless of how the series evolved and how it faded into obscurity for some people, not all of them, not the ones that played it, the lessons remain. The Age of Enlightenment remains. The age that taught us that you are your own worst enemy, that conquering your defects, your vices, your fears, your hatred, your ignorance, that is the path to enlightenment. That is the quest of the Avatar. That's the journey we are all on. And one day, maybe we can all say that at least we didn't use the skull of Mundane to kill everyone, and that we did our best. Because in the end, that's all any of us can do. Thank you for watching this show. If you enjoyed it, please consider watching some of our other videos and maybe sharing them or giving a thumbs up if you feel like it. And if you really liked what you saw, please check out our Patreon page. For just $1 a month, you could help us make much better shows and get some rewards in the process. Or you could consider buying my book called Tale of Doom. Volume 1 is out now and available for just $2. And as always, if you thought it was horrible, you know where to find me and complain about it.